Howdy ho, guys and gals, it's Red the Bear. Welcome back to the Den of Tools Wednesday live stream. And let's see what we got all set up for us today. We're going to talk about some of the old videos we've done. We're going to talk about some of the format for the videos coming up. And we're going to talk about anything you guys want to talk about. We'll talk about tools, we'll talk about RVs. We can talk about firearms. We can talk about politics. We can talk about whiskey and moonshine. The whole 9 yards. It's kind of open-ended chat here today. We'll see if anyone's out there, if anyone rolls into the den. Till then, let's see what we got here. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. He's first in the channel today. How's it going? Let's see here. Any other juicy news that we need to cover here today? All right. It seems to be a slow day today. All right. We're doing good. The wife's off doing some shopping for the family, and the cubs are around here. They're trying to be quiet. They're trying to be good. They don't want Daddy to have to chomp them for being too noisy. Let's hear. Oh, that looks cool. Hold on just a second here. Hold on here. Let's start off the chat today with something fun. Hey Jack, how's it going? Dan, Sean, the Cubs are doing good. You know, we took them in for a follow-up. In fact, that's where we were yesterday. We were down in Fontana, California. Oh, that's such a fun drive. And he got an entire clean bill of health. No problems whatsoever. We are thrilled about that one. All right. So I got to cover this one in stories of you can't believe how stupid someone is. It's not exactly tool related, but it was too funny not to. Let's see if we can do window. There we go. Yep. You see it right there. Suspected shark thief in San Antonio aquarium heist charged with felony. Did any of you hear about this? The missus told me about it, and I thought at first she'd fallen for one of those Onion news announcements or something like always seems to happen. And no, it's true. These people tried to steal a shark out of an aquarium using a stroller. Yep. They walked in. Apparently the guy who was behind it knew what he was doing. When they found him, he had an entire setup in his garage that mocked the setup that was in the aquarium. So allegedly that the shark would be able to go into it and not notice any kind of difference. They went in, used a bucket to scoop up this horn shark. It's not a huge shark. I think it's a couple feet long. Scoop up this horn shark, put it in a stroller, walk it out, put it in their car, and drive away. Now, of course, people saw them doing this. Aquarium employees saw them, reported it. The manager of the aquarium followed the people out, confronted them. They noticed that there was water dripping out. They said that they'd spilled their Yeti cooler or something. And of course, you know, rule number one when stealing sharks, always make sure you use your own vehicle with the plate still on it. Yeah, it made it pretty easy for them to report it to the police and have them track him down. It just makes you shake your head for humanity. Anyway, let's see here. Oh, and that's the other one I want to talk about real quick. I want to talk about my video from the other day about the stand your ground thing. I want to be clear because people get so worked up about this sort of stuff that they don't listen to what the bear is saying. And then quite often they like to put their own words into my mouth. And what's even better is the people who like to make comments before they even watch the whole video. That's precious. But no, my issue with this was not whether the guy, what the guy who what's his name, McGlackton or whatever, whether the aggressor, the guy who pushed him, I wasn't trying to get into whether he was right or wrong in what he did or any of that kind of stuff, or whether he deserved to get shot or whatnot. I was just clearly commenting on two things: A, what the law is and how it should be interpreted, and B, the fact that the sheriff is making an issue out of this for politics. And if you don't believe me, right now, the NRA is actually going after the guy, as well as several other news orgs are asking him, well, why is he sitting there saying that this guy can't be arrested? Because the sheriff's saying, my hands are tied, it's a clear-cut case. That's not the way the Florida law is written. And the NRA, of all people, are pushing back on this guy saying, we don't think it's a good shoot. We think the guy should get arrested. And there's a lot of quibbling. And remember, for those of you who didn't catch the part, I'm an NRA certified firearms instructor, okay, on use of force, not just how to shoot a gun, but the kind of force you can use legally. I'm not talking about morally or ethically. I'm talking legally. All right, and I've been teaching classes. I've taught thousands of people. I am actually an expert in this field. So you can sit there and quibble with, well, I feel it should be this or I feel it should be that. That's great. You have a beer and express your feels. What I'm talking about are the legal ramifications and what you can or cannot do. Now, this guy's turned it into a political circus by trying to make his point, because he's been against this whole stand your ground thing from the beginning, saying that the law is written wrong, that it's bad, and he may or may not be right. But the point is, this is the same guy that likes to come out and say stuff like, my deputies are going to shoot CCW carriers. Now, what that even has to do with any of this, the point he was trying to make, because he was talking about open carry at the time, I don't know. But the whole point is, this guy likes to make bombastic statements and get his face in the press. That's what he's doing. He's trying to politicize it because he's trying to extend his career. And he's doing it on the backs of people like you and I. Now, as far as my opinions that I threw in at the end about the shooter, Draka, I think it's everyone else. Yeah, I do think the guy was looking for a fight. He had been coming up to the store and constantly getting into it with these people. There's a difference between going up and saying, hey, what you're doing is wrong, and getting into a shouting, cursing match with people. You come up and you say what you're doing is wrong. That's good. All right. You've made your statement. You've done your civic duty. But when you sit there and you get into a pissing match with somebody, that's over the top. And that's when you've lost the moral high ground. All right. Draka was way beyond that. He was doing this all the time, to the point where the shop owner had to come out constantly telling the guy to get lost and to stop doing it. And allegedly Draka said to him, I'm sorry. I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't stop myself from doing this. And every time I do, I get myself in trouble. Another patron had come out and said that Draka 2 weeks prior had done the same thing to him, started using racial slurs and threatened to shoot him, even going back to his car to get something, came back when the shop owner came back at that moment and got between the two and shut him down. And on top of that, Draka was previously arrested for, drumroll please, brandishing a firearm in a road rage incident. This is a guy with a history of being a hothead, of liking to talk about how big his gun is, and actually waving it around. It was only a matter of time. I'm sorry. I'm pro-gun. I'm pro-Second Amendment rights. I'm about as pro as you get. But to be honest and to be fair and to show people that, we're not a bunch of brainless idiots over here on the side of the fence, that we got to call a spade a spade. And when there's a moron with the gun, we got to say, yep, that was a moron with the gun. Lock him up. Anyway. Yeah, they don't catch the smart ones. No, they'll never find the bodies that I buried. That's humor, by the way, guys. Hey, everyone. Gee, dude, let's see what else is going here. That's a small group today. Yeah, I don't think it was a good shoot. And I think I think the state's attorney general wants to do something, but they're caught between a rock and a hard place because at this point it's all politics. If they prosecute the guy, then the state attorney general's like, well, I'm going to lose the vote for the pro-gun side. And if I don't prosecute him, we may have another Al Sharpton incident or something. He's in a lose-lose situation. What they really need to do is and what they're probably doing is they're doing some full research into Draka. And if they can come back and show that this guy was off kilter, they'll prosecute him or put him in the funny house, one of the two. Now, here's something that's real interesting. On the left, every time we see one of these big shootings or something, you instantly see, and here's the gun he used, and here's the gun he used. I've been searching all over because just out of curiosity, I watch a lot of videos regarding CCW shootings. It's part of my job. And I don't teach classes right now, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to go forward with teaching more classes. In fact, the missus and I are banding about starting a little part-time company doing personal protection in the home classes, going out and doing evaluations of people's home security and teaching them how basically to work their house in the case of a break-in, how to get to their firearm, how to clear the house and stay safe. But anyway, Bunny's in the house. We're doing good. Thank you so much. And Anvil's here. Shane's in Tampa. I bet it's hot down in Tampa. But anyway, the point is I've watched a lot of these videos and I've always liked to know all the facts. I was curious as to, I saw the way he reached. Was he pocket carrying? Was he carrying inside the waistband? But that's just more of a professional curiosity, not trying to be, morbid about it. But the only thing I could find, and I don't know if it's actually the case, was I was able to find on one news site that listed that, and I don't know if they're just trying to use it as, as just filler art or something, but they depicted it as a Browning 1910 380. That's an obscure gun, if that's what his concealed carry was. Let me show you what one of those looks like here. It's all right, come on. There you go. That is not a bad gun. I don't think Browning knew how to make a bad gun. But the you look at that, you gotta say who's going to be carrying something like that as their CCW. I don't know. It's interesting. And the first thing is when I see this, I see vertical hash marks on the slide. Is Glock going to sue them for copyright or patent infringement? Doesn't Glock have that copywritten or whatever? They go after anybody who has vertical, what do they call it? Grip marks or whatever on the slide. Yeah, that might have been the case. Which, by the way, I would say anybody who carries a 1911 as your CCW gun, we need to chat. 1911. I'm a huge fan of John Moses Browning. The man was a genius. There's just an engineering genius, and the 1911 is one of the best handguns ever made. But as I always say, it's a tool for the job. All right, and it's not a CCW tool. Just making it smaller doesn't make it that. Let me see here. If I could show you what I mean. I need one that's depicted the right angle. Oh, that's not going to show up right. Let's work. This'll work. It's not exactly a GI one, but it's close enough. Alright. Change that to this. Alright. Here you go. Now, yeah, it says Colt government model, but it's got the extended beaver tail. It's got skeletonized hammer and trigger, and it's got a rail on it. One thing about the 1911 that does make it appealing as a carry gun is the fact that it's super slim. But the thing that doesn't make it appealing, especially as a full size, is how much it weighs. It's all metal, and it weighs a ton. Which, fine, if that's what you want to do, you get a good holster, you get a good belt, great. That's great. But you got to carry it cocked and locked. You've got a lot of stuff hanging off the side. All right, that trigger, the hammer, all of that stuff. When you're trying to get clear. That's all stuff that can get caught on something. All right. Now, granted, I like 45 as a carry caliber. It's a slow moving bullet, so you're gonna have less over penetration than you would say with a 9mm or something like that. But and honestly, that's my preference. If I'm either carrying a 45 or a 380. I'm carrying a 45 when I can, and if I'm either wearing like light shorts or it's really hot out or something, and I just can't carry something that size, I'm carrying a pocket 380. I call it. I don't think it's a good solution. It's at least I have this solution. And then I always have a firearm in the car. Luckily, in Nevada, you can conceal a loaded firearm in your vehicle, no permit even required. And there's actually quite a few states like that. Anyway, the 1911 has a lot of operations that go along with it. It's designed as a sidearm for use in the field by the military. And for that purposes, it's great. It's designed to be carried in a holster with a fold over flap. It's they even had lanyards on them so that when you were mounted, if you dropped it, it wouldn't fall. It's got the grip safety. And that's the other thing. And that's one of my biggest issues is the grip safety. The grip safety is great, but for a CCW, if it's cold and winter, I've had issues where the gloves I'm wearing prevent the grip safety from getting depressed properly. That's a problem. In fact, I heard stories about the old was it Texas Rangers that were issued 1911s, and they would put like rubber bands or something on them so that the grip safety was always depressed. Anyway, not to make this whole thing about firearms and whatnot, but I just need my 2 cents out on the 1911. All right, moving on. Oh, let's see here. Oh, let's talk automotive for a minute. Wait, hold on. What's this say down here? Let me catch up on the messages. If it broke, don't fix it. Says depending on what doing if I carry my Kimber. I know. You know what? And I have a Kimber. I have a Kimber 1911 TLE Custom 2. That's what, $1,000 gun? I mean, it's not. So I mean, it's not that I'm anti 1911. I think they're beautiful guns. I love shooting them. I would not carry one except in the kind of instance where I can open carry, and if I was out camping or something, sure, why not? Automotive sales are down. Oh, yeah, guys. Looks like Ford, Nissan, Honda, Toyota, General Motors, even Hyundai. All light vehicle sales fell by an estimated almost 4%. So a lot of people are freaked out about this. Just to let you know, the first 6 months of the year were real strong for automakers. And so I would not be overly concerned about this. A lot of people are going, oh, we got another recession coming or something. You're going to get some pullback. People only buy cars every, 4 to 6 years. If a bunch of people bought a car this summer, there's only so many people who don't have a new car. So I wouldn't freak out about it. Kevin says he carries the MP Shield 9mm CCW, And Springfield 1911 for open carry for work. Cool. I do have to, every time I hear someone carries the M&P Shield, I just have to say this. Make sure that you've shot probably 400 to 600 rounds through it, and you are comfortable with the ammo that you're using, and you haven't had any problems with it. Of all the firearms that I've had in my classes that people have had problems with, the M&P Shield was by far the number one gun. Now, I'm not going to say necessarily that that's the M&P that was the problem, because a lot of my classes, I had new shooters. I was not uncommon for 20% of my class to be someone who had never fired a firearm before, and something's going on in their life, and they decided that they need a CCW. And they go out, and what's the least expensive name brand that they've heard of? Well, everyone's heard of Smith & Wesson, and the M&P Shield is a great budget little firearm, so that was probably also one of the most common new firearms for people to carry. That said, just make sure that you've run it a bunch and that you're confident with it. And the Springfield, I love the Springfield 1911s. Those are great guns. American Honda. Yeah, I think Honda will be doing fine. As I said, I don't think it's a real issue with automakers. I think it's just an issue that the market's getting saturated. Everyone's been buying vehicles. Heck, we just bought a vehicle. In fact, as I've been saying, though, like over at FCA, they've been having problems with, Dodge is not doing well. This, the motorsports division, the Challengers and the Chargers, those are selling great. But, they don't make a lot of money on those things because they got a lot of tech going into them, and they can only sell, a four-door sedan for so much. Now, however, Ram is still kicking it. They're doing great. And you know who's doing even better? The Golden Boy, Jeep. Everyone else is losing money. Jeep sales up 5.9%. Yeah, we helped out with that. Are the firearms that you believe the public shouldn't have, or are you an all or nothing guy? Are there firearms that I believe the public shouldn't have? I'm guessing that's what you mean. Boy, that's a big, long discussion. Let's see here. We're delving back into the firearms discussion here. Are there guns that I don't believe the public needs to have bazookas and rocket launchers and all that stuff. They're fun to play with, but I think for the average person, that you don't need them. I think that, and honestly, if you saw the video I just did recently, I showed the wife and I out shooting fully automatic weapons, but I don't think the average person needs a fully automatic weapon. And to be honest, they don't. Fully automatic weapons are there. Hold on just a second. Oi! Yes? What's Papa Bear doing? Recording. So what are you doing? Being loud? Yeah. Gonna make some cub soup there in a minute. Anyway, there's really not much use, even in an uprising kind of situation, to overthrow tyranny, for automatic weapons. You're seeing it less and less in the military, burst fire, if anything, but a good shooter, well-trained on a semi-auto is as effective as you really need. And somebody who's not trained on a fully automatic, it's really easy for them to lose control and have it spray everywhere. And it's just something that the general person doesn't need. You don't need it for home defense. You don't need it for overthrowing tyranny. And having it for fun is, it's fun. It's illegal currently. I don't see a problem with it. If I want to go down to the range, there's ways to get access to those type of firearms if you want to fill out the paperwork, and then you can have access. Great. As to everything else, I don't think crazy people should have them. I don't think that, violent offenders should have them. I think the laws that we have in place, the base laws are good and they're efficient, but I also realize that having anything else, people who are criminals are going to get their hands on guns. The whole 3D printing thing, that's ridiculous. I'm all about 3D printers and stuff. The guns you can print with a 3D printer are a joke right now. They're talking about, they can 3D print guns. They'll go through through metal detectors. Yeah, the one gun that the guy has that's 3D printable that doesn't have to have any significant amounts of metal in it is the Liberator, and it still uses like at least one nail or something as the firing pin, which I think a metal detector might pick up. But even still, it's a single shot 22 that's a pain in the fuzzy tail to reload. That is not a weapon that anybody's worried about. As far as making guns at home, they need to go over and check out, what's that kid's YouTube channel? He makes all these homemade guns, slide fire shotgun things with pipes just from the hardware store. That's ridiculous. Australia is overrun with the gangs building their own fully automatic submachine guns in garages. It's not hard. You can get an 80% lower and a $60 drill press from Harbor Freight and build a lower for an AR-15, which is a lot cheaper than going out and spending $3,000 to $4,000 or more on a 3D printer to print the lower that's going to break after a couple hundred rounds. Anyway, and the reality is that genie's out of the bottle. All right, the plans are on the internet. You can download them from dozens of different places. They know this. They just want to argue about it and pretend and stick their head in the sand and promote their politics. Did that answer your question? All right. Yeah, there's only so much money I have to buy new vehicles. And to be honest, we usually try to have one new vehicle and one used vehicle. I don't like buying new vehicles. And in fact, I don't ever buy a new vehicle. I always try to buy one that's like a year old, like somebody bought and then they couldn't afford it and they take it back. And I don't ever want to pay that new car tax, as it were. Automatic weapons are good for cover fire. That's debatable. You could stick your AR-15 out, pull the trigger a bunch of times, and because, honestly, unless it's a crew serviced weapon, how good for cover fire can it really be? Or maybe you've got a saw, with extended, round capability. But if you've got, like, say, an AR-15 or an M4 or whatever, and you're running a 30 round mag, how long is that covering fire going to last you? 2-3 seconds? That's, as I said, burst fire is your best bet, and I can pull the trigger pretty quickly on an AR-15 and keep someone's head down just almost as much. So I think the effectiveness for quote-unquote covering fire is minimal, or at least a minimal advantage between a semi-automatic weapon and a fully automatic weapon. Now, crew-serviced weapons, like say you've got an M60 on a bipod and someone's bringing you ammo, that's a whole nother bag of chips right there. When I take my training classes, because I'm an instructor, I don't get to go and just take regular classes like somebody else. I have to take instructor level classes, and I quite often am the only person in my class who's currently a civilian. Everyone else in the classes, at least the place I go, are either active military or active law enforcement, usually federal law enforcement. We get a lot of Border Patrol, DEA, some FBI, a lot of active military, Marines. We had a Air Force guy last time. They gave him a bunch of hell. Let me tell you, he was a great shot too, man. He was really good, but Air Force, right? They asked him if he was staying at the Hilton in one of the deluxe suites. He said yes. If you're a responsible owner, there should be no problem if you pass background checks to get a license. I'm licensed CCW covering 36 states, FFL3, I can Michigan, NRA instructor, RSO, and I do security for a living. I agree with you on the video. Well, thanks. And I don't I don't think you should have to get a license to own a firearm, because it's not like owning a car. Okay, yeah, you need a car, and cars are important, but a firearm, owning a firearm is an intrinsic right that is necessary, for protection of life and liberty. Owning a car is a right, all right? And people who say, like, well, having a driver's license isn't a right. No, the courts have ruled on that. It is actually a right. Just because it's not enumerated in the Constitution doesn't make it not a right. But I don't like the idea of throwing in these vague rights as far as, getting your a license to own a firearm. As far as passing background checks, there's arguments either way on that one, but I do lean towards the background checks, because otherwise there really is no way to catch crazy. All right. Yes. You make the argument that bad guys will do bad things, and they will. They would no doubt do bad things. But crazy people don't think of themselves as doing bad things often. Crazy people often think that they're the good guys. That's why they're crazy. And they're the ones who will, if we have this link that's being done properly, and it's supposed to be, if doctors are registering with the system, and quite often doctors aren't, because they have their moral issues that they think are, well, I'm not going to tell the state because my patient's rights are being, no, your patient, is just likely to go off the deep end, and if the state doesn't know about it, he might get the means to do so. So I do kind of, and I went through that. I've lived in free states. I live in a free state now. I also lived in California, where you had to do background checks. I don't believe in wait periods. I think wait periods are ridiculous, and I think that's just a form of backdoor kind of gun bans as they try to push more and more things along with it. But going and passing a background check at a dealer, it makes it a nice, safe place to do a transaction when selling to another private party. Makes it easier to settle on where you're going to meet and stuff, because you got to go and run the background check. And the background check can be done in 15, 20 minutes. It's not a huge hassle. And it is about the only thing that will stop crazy. So I kind of lean that way. I don't agree with the having to get a license for CCW. For the same reasons as before, but what I would support is, the training. I don't believe in requiring training for a CCW, and that's coming from somebody who's a CCW instructor. And do I think that most people need training? Yes, I think everyone needs CCW training, but I don't think that you can require it for personal protection. That's just it creates a dangerous slope. What you do is you put out incentives, which is like, fine, you can get your CCW, you just go down and get your license, and it's $350. If you can show that you've had X amount of hours of training from a certified instructor, it's $50. You make it like a rebate. And people are like, well, I can either pay the state or I can pay the instructor. So that's, I always like to play the gaming option when it comes to government. Use the carrot, not the stick. Yeah, when the doctors, anytime a doctor asks you if there's a firearm in the house, just sit there and stare at them. Just give them the eye. Next question. And yeah, in Chicago, and I've spent plenty of time in Chicago. Notice the shirt. See the shirt? Yeah. I'm from the Midwest. I got family in Illinois. Spend a lot of time in the Quad Cities. Spend a lot of time, in and around there. And and Chicago, has some serious issues. And the guns are coming in there and stuff. Background or waiting periods don't stop anything. And background checks are not going to stop criminals. So that's not going to stop the problem that Chicago has. Background checks will stop crazy. It will stop a few of the really, really stupid criminals. All right. I'll be honest. It will. And but it won't stop the dedicated criminals, and it won't stop the people selling guns out of the trunk of their car. That's going to require a totally different solution. And having background checks, or not background checks, but having waiting periods isn't going to stop that either. So there's really no point in the waiting periods. They've advertised that as a quote-unquote cooling off period for hotheads so they don't go out and murder people. And yet we have plenty of states who don't have waiting periods, and they don't have that problem. Ergo, there is no data supporting the fact that waiting periods do anything. Dan, how about this? Average response time for a police officer to a home invasion, home robbery in an average metropolitan area is 11 and a half minutes. That means you've heard a sound, you've picked up the phone, you've called 911, you've gone through the whole discussion with them, and they've dispatched. So you've got another minute or 2 minutes on the phone with 911. So now you're at like 13, 14 minutes from this point where you hear a sound to the point where there are boots on the ground in your yard and lights out front. The average home invasion lasts 6.5 minutes. Yeah, it's a snarky comment when people say, when seconds matter, the police are only minutes away. But it's sadly true. And the one violent crime in California that's on the rise, home invasions. In fact, across most southern states, home evasions. And the reason is you've got you've got gangs coming in from Mexico, crossing the border, doing these spree robberies up through the states and then running back to Mexico. Remember I said I train with a bunch of law enforcement. I get to hear the nasty stories they tell at break about the houses they've gone in and the stuff they've seen. And I don't like hearing it. You don't want to hear it. And anyway, the fact of the matter is, I didn't have firearms for a long time as a young adult. I had them when I was younger, and then I moved in the city, and I didn't really care. I was living by myself, and it just wasn't important for me. The day I found out I was going to be a father, I went out and bought a shotgun. All right? And that's what got me back into firearms. And the thing is, because I'd been so ignorant of it during that time because I hadn't been involved. And then I found out, and this was in San Francisco, and what I had to go through, and that's what got me into becoming a 2A activist, is because I realized how bad things had gotten. But, we have 3 cubs. There's a cub right here. I think she's watching me. No, it's the little boy. Anyway, I have lots of firearms in the house. And they're all either in a gun safe or a quick access safe. I have a quick access safe right next to me. Here, let's do this. I have a firearm right here. I'm gonna move my microphone down. Let me move the safe over here. Okay, and this is not an expensive safe. I have several of these around the house. Okay. Okay, that's how long it takes to open up. All right, let me do that for you again. That's it. Okay, and then closed. You can't get into it. Also, I can turn off those beeps. All right, the first beeps you heard when I did the first time was actually turning the beep on. And in here I've got. All right. That's what I keep next to my desk. Why do I keep it next to my desk? Well, if I went to my gun safe, which is in the master bedroom, if I heard a noise, I would have to run to the master bedroom. How far away is that? So I usually keep a firearm in the garage because that's my shop area where I am often. I keep one next to my desk where I'm working quite often. I have them in the bedroom, and I have one in the living room where I'm like sitting watching TV, blah, blah. And they're all in quick access safes. Other than the main gun safe, which is just your standard, big 48 gun safe. There's ways to keep things safe and have children. I mean, how many people have a lawnmower, have chainsaws, have gasoline, have steak knives? There's lots of ways for kids to get in trouble and hurt themselves. A firearm firearm accidents by children are statistically, one of the least likely accidents you're going to have in your house. The bathroom. You shouldn't let the kids go to the bathroom. That's stupidly dangerous. Anyway, have your wife call the bear. I'll talk to her. She can talk to my wife. My wife is from Berkeley. Okay. If you want to talk about an anti-gun establishment. Now, granted, she grew up with a father who was also very liberal, he went, as I like to say, he was so far left, he went off the end and came back around the other side. But he had firearms because he knew that bad things happen and you have to be able to protect your family. Yeah, it's better to have a gun in your hand than 911 on the phone. There's some great YouTube videos. There's a woman whose husband had just passed, a young lady. She's in her 20s, and she's in her mobile home, and some crazy guy who thought she was supposed to be at some, he saw in the paper that there was going to be a funeral, figured no one was going to be there, and tries to break into the house to rob the place, but she's actually home. He got the dates wrong or something. And she's on the phone with 911 as the guy's busting in. He's trying to bust into the bedroom where she's barricaded herself and her kid. And she's like, I got a gun, go away. And she's talking to the lady on 911. And she's like, he's almost here, the police here. She's like, ma'am, you're going to have to do what you need to do to protect you and your children. And the next thing you hear is a 12 gauge. And that was the end of that problem. It's, if you think a guy with a gun is scary, just see a mom with a gun and threaten her cubs. See what happens. Anyway, let's get on something more light and less dark today. Yeah, teach your children. That's the other thing is not that I would ever do this, but I'm confident that I could leave a loaded gun on my dining room table, and my kids would do one of two things. Either they wouldn't touch it at all, and they're not going to touch it. Either they would ignore it, or they would come up and be like, Dad, did you leave your gun on the table? Which I wouldn't do. But the point is, it's not some cool, oh my gosh, look at that fantastic thing. To them, it's like, there's a gun. I hate to say it, but when I say, hey, who wants to go to the range? My kids are often like, I'm supposed to play with Timmy today or something. I gotta bribe them to get them to go to the range. It's kind of a bummer, and the reason is because they're not, they know what guns are. They're nothing exciting to them. Jack, with the super chat. Hey, I got my bell. Woo! Super chat. Thank you so much, Jack. For all of you who don't know, Super Chat is a way you can donate to the channel. It's right below the chat area where you're typing in. There's a little dollar symbol. You can pick your own dollar amount and help support the Den of Tools, bring us you fine programming like this here. Let's see here. Christopher, how's it going? Girlfriend, that's one thing I was really good at. It's always been good as being an instructor for women because I'm not one of those hardcore, you have to act like a man with a gun and stuff. I get it. And in my classes, I would say often it was in the 40% female range. I was going to say 50%, but I'd have a few classes where it was all guys for some reason. But I had a lot of, it was usually referrals. It was a guy took my class, said, this guy's really great. He's not over the top. He's not one of those, super militant gun guys. He's just a common sense kind of bear. And the women would show up, take the class, and they loved it. They always had a great time. Often because I'd be just as happy to tease the guys. I always like to joke. We'd have them. They'd always come up to we'd do a barrier class with barrier shooting, like say you're going to a doorway or something, and they always come up. Let me see if I can get the bear to do it. And they'd have the hands up with the pistol raised up like this in the classic Farrah Fawcett pose. And I'm like, you're not Farrah Fawcett. You don't have the hair for it. Nobody runs up to a doorway with their firearm pointed up. It's not going to do you any good unless you're afraid that the bad guy is upstairs. If he's upstairs, then what are you doing down here? Anyway. Yeah, as far as age range, somebody always asks, what's the age? My ballpark is around 7, but it's basically whatever you think your kid is capable of. And we started with Nerf. I teach my cubs proper gun etiquette using Nerf when they're little kids. When they're running around the house, fingers off the trigger. All right, you don't point that Nerf rifle at something unless you're prepared to blast it. Good muzzle control, all that stuff, all your basic fundamentals. I taught them in Nerf, and then once we started going to the range, we started with BB guns and stuff like that, and then we did paintball guns and that kind of thing. It was always the same thing, and there was no having to fix bad habits. They already had the good habits. Let's see here. That's great, Christopher. That is so awesome. A, there's nothing like teaching somebody to shoot, and B, be able to reach reach across the aisle, as it were, and bringing families together in that kind of situation. That's the way it should be. You're competent with a firearm, but you should be really equally competent in self-defense. Yeah, self-defense firearm use is not like your typical shooting kind of situation. It's a form of martial art. It's I hate to say it and sound cheesy like that, but it is. It's in fact there's some of the movies where they now call it gun do and stuff. But it and it's a lot of, especially with a pistol, it's a lot of short range shooting, a lot of firing from the second position kind of stuff, where instead of firing extended. And that's one of my favorite parts in the class is we have people walk right up to the target, point blank, pull the firearm, turn your arm, was it 90 degrees or 45 degrees? What is that? 90? I can't think now. 90 degrees. And so you're holding the pistol out about, let me see here. You're holding it, wrong paw. You're holding it right about in this area down here. And you're holding it close in, canted out to the side so the slide doesn't get you in the chest. And you walk up to the target, other hand's behind you so it doesn't get in the way, and you fire. And people get to feel the concussive force and understand what kind of forces they're really dealing with. And that'll teach you some respect, but also teaches you that shooting defensively is a lot different than just going to the range. Hopper, man. Yeah, I heard about the range. One of the places that I used to love to shoot, in fact, where I learned to shoot skeet was in San Francisco, over at Lake Merritt. In fact, I used to live in the towers at Lake Merritt, and they shut that place down based on noise complaints and alleged EPA. And that's the other thing. They're trying to use the EPA to go in and shut down gun ranges. Now, the good thing is, now that Trump's in office, the EPA is not going to pull that kind of trick. But remember when, what's his name, said that, we're going to use other channels to ban guns? Yeah, basically their thought was, if you can't find a place to use your gun, you won't buy a gun. And they've been using the EPA to go in and declare places a hazard due to lead and shutting down ranges. And that happened over in Oakland, another place where they claimed noise pollution as the issue, and they had people complaining that 8 o'clock at night they could hear the guns in their backyard. Sorry, that range closed at dusk around 4:30. Those noises, those are the guys down on 96th Street shooting. That's your local gangs. That's not the gun range. Do the cubs hunt? Only the oldest cub was really of hunting age. We went duck hunting a couple times and only got something once. And he had a great time. He thought he was going to get hypothermia, but he had a great time. And we, since moving to Nevada, Southern Nevada is not much in the way of hunting. And we haven't been around in Montana during any of the real hunting kind of season, which are usually, early fall through midwinter kind of stuff. Elk season there doesn't start until September. We're going to be busy with school and stuff here. So I'm going to miss elk season, and duck season we're way off. And then duck season down here is, that's not happening. Not too many desert ducks around. Now there are some like upland bird and stuff. There's some. In fact, I saw a quail in the backyard today. I was like, "Ooh, where's the 20 gauge?" But I figured the neighbors would probably frown on that. I'm trying to figure out what the hunting situation here is in southern Nevada. If anybody is from southern Nevada and you hunt, feel free to give me an email, red@red-beard.com, and educate the bear on what's possible. I'd like to hear it. That's a lot of shooting with a 22. Had a 90 Brits and an 80K in 2009 as my second car. Paid to Granford. Oh, nice. Yeah, I gotta sell the caddy. Just don't have any room to park it right now. We're paying $150 a month for a parking spot to park the caddy and one other vehicle. It's just a waste of money. It's sad, but it's got to go. Sage rat hunt. Sage rat? You want me to go hunt rats? That might be some fun with some plinking kind of stuff. I always like that kind of stuff. Oh, California. Yeah, California is California. And the really sad thing is, California would like to think that it's oh so liberal and everything, but if you get outside of the North Bay, not even the South Bay is actually fairly conservative. But you get outside of the North Bay, you get outside of the LA and parts of San Diego, the rest of the state is actually pretty sane. Oh, well, Monterey and all that, the coast down there where all the rich people live. They're out of their minds. Parking lot sale, August 17th, 18th, and 19th. Ooh, have to check that one out. Bring a trailer. I forgot all about Bring a Trailer. They used to be, they're not quite what they used to be. I know they've made a bunch of money with that site, and it's become a really big thing. When it started out, there were some real finds on there, but it's still got some cool stuff. You're right. I should check them out. I didn't even think, I forgot all about them. 17 HMR. I've been thinking about it. I go back and forth on 17 HMR. I'm always hesitant to do another chambering. I like to stick to what I have now, which is 22, 380, 9mm, 45, 12 gauge, 20 gauge, 5.56, and 308. I was thinking about adding 300 Win Mag, but I keep thinking I want to get like an inexpensive, super precision target rifle. And I've been looking into like what's the smallest round that center fire that you can do real high precision with. And I don't know. I might break down and do the 17 HMR thing. See, yeah, and that's the thing. I always like to tinker with stuff and tweak it and try to make it as perfect as possible. And I could do that with my 308s, but then it gets so expensive and shooting the 308. If you could shoot reloads, but then you're losing your precision when you shoot reloads. In fact, I just left somebody a comment. They were talking about getting into reloading because they're out shooting CCW all the time. And my statement was, unless you're doing either a precision, match grade reloads, you're a skeet or clay shooter and you're reloading shotgun shells, or you're shooting like a lot of Wildcat vintage or off kind of cartridges, that reloading just doesn't make sense because you can buy factory reloads for so cheap these days. But it'd be fun to get like a little press and do some match loads. I wonder if you can do that. That's viable on 17. Marlin thumbhole stock, bull stainless barrel. Yeah. Savage are the rifles that I use for everything else. Both my 30, or actually all three of my 308s are Savage. So I'm a huge fan of them for like out of the box. The AccuTrigger, the AccuStock, they're fabulous. I like them a lot better than Remington. You know, a lot of people go, "Oh, you have to get a Remington 700," blah blah blah, whatever. Casting, yeah, you're getting serious when you're casting your own loads. Now, are you doing the Jack? Are you doing the powder coating on the reloads? Because I know that, like, especially in a semi-auto, the exposed lead bullets, you'll get a lot of buildup. And there was a trend for a while where picking up that Harbor Freight powder coating machine, and you could powder coat your bullets. It didn't really help the bullet as far as accuracy or anything, but it really reduced the cleanup time in the firearm. Yeah, yeah. I love casting. You know, in fact, I've been trying to, I think I left it, I have a little mini forge that I made out of an old propane tank, and I think I left it in storage. I was looking for it the other day. Because some of the stuff we found in the house and we were pulling out, I don't know if you guys saw it, we had some casting, blacksmithing tools. And there was a ladle and some tongs and stuff, so... the Harbor Freight too rough. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of weight variance. Everyone thinks that, bullets, they're all so accurate and they're all identical and stuff, but no. Unless you're buying match grade kind of stuff. That's the reason why it's match grade and why it's more expensive. Yoda, you're talking the bull barrel. You're talking about for the 1022, or are you talking about on a Savage? Because I have one of the, I think it's called the police line or whatever of the Savage, is the K series, and it was the first one I bought, and it was a 308, and it's got the fluted heavy barrel with the compensator on it. Shoot competition with poly-coated bullets for his Glock. Oh, yeah. Currently working on super stuff for Creedmoor. Oh, everyone's going to Creedmoor. I got an email. Someone's giving away a Creedmoor this Friday, I think is the last day to... What's my opinion on the Smith & Wesson M&P AR-1522? Well, obviously you missed my video on the 7 guns everyone must own. I think that's the go-to. If you're going to buy a 22 and you're an AR shooter, there's just no reason to buy anything else. That's the gun to buy. Before I would have said, if you wanted to go budget, you'd get the Marlin 7 series. And if you could afford to spend a little bit more, get the Ruger 1022, because there's so much you can do with it. You can make them so accurate, and they're just always reliable. And man, that Smith & Wesson, that thing is a little dream gun. I love that. It was cheap. I think I paid $350 for it, something like that. I bought it at a gun show here in Vegas, and it's perfect. And if you run an AR, it's a great training tool, because you can shoot all day for what, $20-$40, and and have all the experience of running a full size AR just in a 22. Yeah, I just need to get the I need to get a silencer for it, so then I don't have to wear the ears all day long. Mossberg has hang-up issues. What Mossberg has hang? Oh, the American. No, that was the whatchamacallit. That was a Ruger. What Mossberg has hang-up issues? Are you talking about the Mossberg 22 that they have? That thing's a piece of junk. I hate to say it, but anyway. I already said what I feel about the Mossberg 22. Or who is it? Who makes those the revolvers where it shoots from the bottom cylinder? The Chiappa. Chiappa sells a 22 upper for the AR. That thing is, I was excited when I saw about it. I wanted to get it. This is when I was in California, because then I could, rather than having to buy another firearm, I could just buy that. I could get it shipped to me. That thing's junk. Yeah, you're not gonna get a whole bunch of mags, for cheap or something like that with the MP22. But I have found that going to gun shows, I can find some decent prices on them. You buy like some old stuff, M44s, 9130s, M1 Grands. Well, the British 303. I just sold an Enfield, actually. I just sold an old Enfield, and what else did I sell? An old Black Powder pistol. An old, it was a Sears brand. I can't remember what it was called. JD something. It was actually, I think it was made by Mossberg. It was a shotgun. And then what was the other? The 9130s. Yeah, they used to be cheap to pick up. Oh, and I also sold a Swiss Mauser. I've kind of gotten out of the vintage firearms. I have a wall hanger, an old bolt action 20 gauge wall hanger on the house in Montana. But as far as vintage shotguns or vintage guns and all, I don't think I have any anymore. In fact, I will say this: one of the vintage guns I sold was a side-by-side 20 gauge, little French-made thing. That is the one gun I really do wish I had not sold. But the problem is, you couldn't really shoot it. I had to order these low compression, low powder shells. They were stupidly expensive, but man, the thing was beautiful. Well, here's a question for you guys. 308 semi-autos. I really want to get another one. I've had a few. The last one I had was a what do you call it? The AK one, Sega. I had a Siega, or however you pronounce it. 308, the one with the short barrel, and it was a nice gun. It was fine. Kicked brass like you would not believe. Oh my gosh. I think it threw brass 30 feet. Forward at that. But what I really want is I want one of those Kel-Tec bullpups. I know some people, they don't like Kel-Tec and they've got some questionable issues and stuff, blah, blah, blah. But that Kel-Tec bullpup is sweet. And their little AR bullpups, those are nice too. I wouldn't mind playing around with one of those. But it's either that or I want to get an FAL. The Bear needs a FAL, Nice metric, FN made, Belgian made FAL. So if you want to hook a Bear up, if you got one lying around. The M1A it's a heavy pig of a gun. And you know what? I like the pistol grips on that kind of rifle. And yeah, I guess you could modify it and go SOCOM-ish with it and whatnot, but they're just, I've never liked the M1As. Molly coated. I've never used the molly coated bullets. So I don't know anything about those. All right. I'm getting looks from the Cubs. They're saying that they're hungry or something. I guess Papa Bear needs to feed them or whatnot. An AR-180. What's an AR-80? I mean, AR-10? I've thought about getting an AR-10. Adams Arms makes some great piston-driven systems. And I really wanted to get the, what do they call it? The Patrol model or something. It's a nice basic little AR-10 with a piston system in it. So you get the benefits of the AK style cycling and whatnot. And maybe I will when the Bears, get some more. I need to get another book out so the Bear can start making some real money again. Anyway, I got to run. Stag, yes. You guys take care. Tomorrow I'm going to have up hopefully that the next in the series of the shop builds. We're going to be doing the middle of the road, the best bang for the buck you can buy. So be sure to check that one out. Also, I got a security camera video coming up here shortly as soon as that gets approved. And anyway, thanks again, Bunny. I will. Oh, thank you. You all take care. And as always, shine on.